Thank you for making time for us to do this interview. We will use for the AGM. And I want to first start by asking you and congratulating you on the results at Lamplight, which was very nice. So how did it go?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This is exciting to talk about the horses. Lamplight was really, yeah, the boys, I say it, the boys did it again. They last year won both of their divisions and then each went up in one division and they won all their classes and the division overall. And Jersey was interesting last year. He was kind of a catch ride for me. I just got him and then had to jump into qualifying shows. So I think I was just trying to, you know, feel his buttons and how he works and who he is and kind of be a little bit more like a still on him and going with him. So it was exciting this year to be on him, having a year of real training. And see how that went, and I could see a good improvement in the areas that I wanted to improve. And I also was super excited because he went 3 days. So Pre-St. George I won and then the freestyle, and I was thinking, yeah, he might be tired on day 3, and he was not. So it really showed me that A, he definitely has gained some strength, and then B, he also liked and enjoyed his work if he's still on day 3 full on there for me.
Excited.
Yes,
to do it.
Yeah. And he's such a exciting and cool horse, and I really love working with him. He's a very, very kind horse and really one of those horses that always tries its best. And so, or his best.
Yeah.
And then Latino, he's a different personality. So I, but had a really good time with him too. He had a couple mistakes in the test, but then, and I was first to go. So it was a little, you know, it was exciting until the very end because I had a few mistakes. But he's still young also. And the other horses had mistakes too, so
that helps.
But it's always exciting, you know. It's exciting to go to a championship and competition, and again, I was first to go, so it was an exciting class for me. But it was really fun having both stallions there, and they're so well behaved. And the tents, the stalls were a little further away from the rings, and you had to ride through a little forest. And that was really nice to give them a good long walk before.
To warm them up. And Latino also was the 3rd year that he was the first in his qualifier ranking, right? That's so amazing.
It is. It really is. And he has such beautiful and big gaits that really speak for him in all the young horse divisions, you know. And so, I mean, he's given us, I always say, a gift each year, and also taking him to Ermelo as a 6-year-old.
I saw you there.
Yeah,
that was
and
great.
He's such a good boy. Like, you know, I was telling even in Chicago in the interview, I take him, the 2 stallions and another Dutch gelding that I have on trail rides, and Latino always is the leader, and he's just so solid. He's my favorite.
He's not spooky, and he just goes and he loves it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Jersey's a little more shy, and the other gelding too. And so I have Latino always
the boss horse.
Yeah.
He'll show everyone like how fun it is.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's super. So speaking of Dutch horses, because I know obviously you're from Germany, and Senseo, your big, you know, like the wonder horse, he was German.
Yes.
But of course, as a Dutch registry, we're very curious to hear your opinion on Dutch horses and if you've ridden more of them and if you noticed any, I don't know if there are any, but specific traits that you think a Dutch horse has or the Dutch bloodlines when they're really bred purely Dutch. Can you say anything about that?
It's hard to say because I didn't have enough, but I mean, I definitely also myself looking a lot in Holland for up and coming and young horses, and I always loved how much expression the Dutch horses have. and they're beautiful. And I think, you know, of course, that's not where you score, but it is a little bit the whole package in the sense also they have a lot of charisma. And I think it's just very exciting for the sport when we have that too. Yes, technically it has to be correct, but we all love horses, right? Yeah. And there's just until, you know, even when we started like little kids, but until this day, when a horse comes in the ring that has a lot of expression,
presence,
and
yeah.
presence,
Yeah.
charisma. I mean, I still get so excited and melt, and I'm just so in love with that horse then. So I think a little bit it counts too, besides all the other attributes that we have to have in order to be competitive at a high level in the sport. But yeah, that's definitely, they always have, I think, beautiful movement, you know, and I also liked a little bit that the Dutch horses have a little bit more knee. You know, they're not so flat.
Technique in,
Yeah.
the front leg.
Yeah. I think if we talk about, okay, there's always something we can improve. I think we have to watch that we keep them supple in the back, and maybe pay a little bit attention to that as a rider for me.
Yeah, sure.
To say that we don't forget that we have also elasticity, and that the horses mechanically also with the hind, we always talk about an engaged hind leg, but that the hind leg doesn't just is active visibly, but works correctly through the whole body and the back, where the back is the bridge and transfers the energy. So the whole horse moves more as one unit in a more supple way. But yeah, so it's very exciting to work with the Dutch horses for sure.
Yeah, super. And speaking of like young horses, because I read in several interviews that you really like to ride a horse from young up to the level, so you can put the right basics on them and really, you know, in Dutch we say that you put them to your hand, like you put them in your hand, like how you want them to respond to your aids. Do you have specific tips for people that, you know, like are eager to start training young horses and not wanting to ride a horse that's already Grand Prix or Prix St. George, but how would they go about? Like, what is important if you have a young horse that you want to ride all the way up the levels?
I think it's really important because with horses we never stop learning, and it's such a, moves forward and up and we're all happy, and then whoops, we're going down again. You know, it's a little bit of I always call it the stock market. It is going forward, but there's, moments where things don't go so well. I think it's really important that you have somebody on your side on that journey that you trust and can help you with eyes on the ground. And also for younger riders that don't have the experience yet, to have maybe a person that has been there, done that, and can also give you a little confidence, where maybe the younger person gets a little, loses confidence when things don't go so well, and tells you, hey, that's just the normal, natural way. That's just how things are, I think that's really important. That you have some guidance, especially in this country being so big. We don't always have the luxury like the Europeans and have access everywhere.
To drive to a lesson 30 minutes and drive back, Yeah.
And here we don't have that. So I think it's really important, and that you pick a good trainer, because also again in America we don't have that strong concept that we have in Europe. When you become or learn a profession, we have to go learn that for 3 years, right? And
that's what you did too in Germany.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. It's a little bit easier here, which, it all has its good and bad from that. There's a lot of opportunity here. If you work hard, you can really make it. But then in the education part, that you just watch and find somebody you trust, and that is good.
And if you are never ridden to Grand Prix yet, would you recommend it's still possible or good to start with a young horse, or do you think
100%.
you should?
I mean, look, when you look at the classical book, it always says, you know, the inexperienced rider on an experienced horse and vice versa, right?
That's what a lot of people think. Like,
yeah, but I would say, I mean, I come from a non-traditional background. Yes, I learned with warm bloods at Jean Bemelmanns in Krefeld, Germany. But then after that, I went back to the barn where I was as a child, riding ponies, and the other half, they had Friesian horses and Andalusians. And that's where that comes from also for me to young trained horses, because I've never been given an older trained horse. I don't come from that kind of business model. So we always had to make our own horses. So that's why I feel most comfortable when it's my product. And it's such a partnership that we read each other at the end with such subtle little signals. But I can say from my experience, it's definitely possible. And I remember even with my Friesian, I was in Texas and he was trained to I1 and then he could do Piaffe Passage, but I've never done one 10-piece. And my coach, I had my coach come always over for clinics, Jan Nivelle. And I said to him, okay, I have everything for the Grand Prix, but I don't have one 10-piece. And I thought he would do it. And then he would put me on and he said, no, you do it. And it worked, you know? So yes, there's guidance, but I will say from my experience, it's definitely doable.
Yes, just with a good coach.
Yeah, exactly.
And then with modern day, you can do online coaching and everything too. So you have more possibilities to be coached well. You just need to invest time and
100%.
Obviously also some funds into it, but it's worth it.
And the other thing for young riders, I would say, because you know times have changed now with internet, I'm always like very looking back happy that
we didn't have that.
Yes. I always say I grew up with rocks and sticks to play, you know. But it's like I sometimes feel like that must be hard for a young person when people always
see everything you do.
Yes, and they see these really fancy horses, and what is being bred nowadays is just incredible. The movement that we have now available, and the athleticism, and the everything, the whole package compared to 20, 30 years ago, right? So I think it's also really important that we don't forget to not override the expression, but that the expression comes from suppleness and throughness and harmony, and don't go accidentally the wrong direction for our own egos or for our own athletic goals, and always keep in mind that we're working with an animal and take our time, and each horse is individual. And you know, I have like Latino, for example, like you said, it's great. He was every year in his young horse classes doing well. But I have another horse that is the same age, and he was not ready. And I never pushed him for that because he's not the type. He was a little bit more of an introvert and he needed a little more time. He got a little tense. And timing wise, it was always, see, when you do the young horses, you have to be also ready mid-year. So you qualify beginning of the year. That's a tough time schedule. And he was always ready. When I got back from Chicago or Almelo, then this horse that I'm talking about, that's when he started to be. So it wasn't much, but it was enough to not do it in order to not sacrifice, you know, trust and the partnership in the long run.
And build stress, because they can build up stress and hold on to it for a long time.
So fast. And I want to teach my horses when I have a horse like that. That's why I also like sometimes really going a level lower than what they train at home with the more insecure horses. Because I want them to go to a show and liking it and not feeling, oh, now we have to do something that's a little harder than the rider. I mean, we all want to do well. We put a little pressure on, I feel like, and I don't want to do that. I want to make it a really good experience, so at the end that I really have a partner I can count on and I can push on, because they don't look at showing in a negative or stressful way, but a very relaxed and, hey, it's the same like at home.
And I can imagine if you are, start a horse yourself, then you build so much trust with them. They know exactly who you are, what you ask of them, and that they can trust you, that you're not going to push them too hard. And that's also nice if you started them yourself.
100%. Yeah, I always joke, it's like an old married couple. I mean, you know each other so well.
Especially with those babies, right?
Yeah.
It's like imprinting every little thing in them.
Yeah,
it's really
the
special.
Body language.
Yeah.
And at the end, they know every little movement, because my gosh, until their Grand Prix, it's a few years, right?
Yeah.
And you've been on that journey together every day. And I like doing a lot of my own grooming when I have just one horse. And especially with Sanseo, I did a lot. So there's a lot of like
bonding there. Yeah.
And he knows, I know,
everything.
I can read him very easily, and he reads me as well.
And then they love doing it for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So back to the young horses. So how do you select a young dressage horse? Like when you went to scout for Sanseo, you scouted him yourself, right? When he was very young. But what do you see in a horse that how do you know that he can become such a good Grand Prix horse in a young horse? How do you select that? Or was it luck?
There was a good amount of luck in there, 100%. And it is always,
a risk.
Yes, it's always a risk. We all know that. But I think with him, there was definitely some attributes that I really liked. And so the one was, besides the fact that they have to have 3 good gaits, I always want a good walk. I always say the walk should be for free, right? Not too big, that's correct, you're right, because in the collection then it can sometimes lose the rhythm. And but then I want ground covering gaits, but I also want to see a little bit that also the hind leg is in a place where I can see the collection will be fairly, will be there, yeah. But with Sanseo also, I think overall the balance, the uphill balance, just nowadays especially, I mean, I remember when I learned at Bemelmanns, that's definitely something we had to train the horses. But nowadays it's so competitive.
Naturally already.
Yes, and it's more competitive because we have better horses. So you have to go with times. And these 3 or 4-year-olds, and I don't mean like that they're being pushed, because Sanseo, when I saw him the first time, he was only 3 times under saddle, so I saw him just on the lunge line. He just had this natural balance. And I was thinking back then, he was going on a 20-meter circle, and you could see how much forward drive he had. And that's something, for example, I think is important for Grand Prix. Because even at the end in Tokyo, when it was so hot, it not once, you have thoughts about, watch out that this doesn't go wrong or that doesn't go wrong. It never crossed my mind that I wouldn't have enough horse in that weather. Not once did I think.
Because he always kept that forward urge.
He just has so much go, but was good in the head too, because that's the hard combo, right? The hotness.
It's sometimes a trade-off, right?
Or and when we talk about hot, I don't like the hot, but word hot. They have to be good in the mind. I think I would call it more the work ethic and willingness to just go forward. It's hard also. When we talk about the other extreme, I always say that in my lessons, it's hard to collect a horse that doesn't think forward, right? You can't convert that push into carrying if the horse doesn't have
forward
that.
Isn't there?
Yeah. So that was a little bit, and I will admit his overall presence, because there's still that little horse girl in me.
You're
so
like,
when
wow.
It's just he came in the ring and he was not 3 yet, and he just was confident, and in that circle, in his little side reins, he was going without being where you think like, ooh, it comes from the wrong place. Yeah, he was not made hot because he was being prepared for sale. Absolutely not. He came from Johannes and Ines Westendorf, who are very experienced and great horsemen. and was very, very well started. So there was nothing like where they made them hot for sale. So, and that's something I really look at. And that is something also nowadays I urge young riders to look out for, that the expression doesn't come from the wrong place. Yeah.
That they weren't made crazy, so to speak.
Yeah, or even, more presence for the sale. I mean, it is a business, but we have to watch that we don't abuse that. And it's hard. I think it's really stays with the horses. They're so fragile at that age. And I'm super big on taking your time the first 2 years, 3 to 5. That's, as I get older, I don't love sitting on 3-year-olds anymore, but it's my favorite years to just implement trust and, hey, it's okay, cross training, and also your baseline for your half horse, meaning how they learn to react to the leg, to the rider's seat, and the hands.
That's like the most important basic at that age.
I think those 2 years, and it takes that long to do it correctly. That's really the baseline years to me. And from then on it goes, I feel like, a little faster.
Yeah.
But the 2 first years, if I talk to a young rider now, they probably won't understand that. And they think, my God, that's way too slow.
But they are maybe impatient.
Yeah, and we have to teach them that just because a horse can move already like an FEI horse, they still need the basis, and do it from a point of relaxation and throughness, and not from a point of a little bit of making them, present themselves more.
And now I would really like to go and see the stallions.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Since when are you here at this location?
3 years now. So this is in San Marcos, that's by San Diego, and the farms or the ranch name is the Palms. It's owned by Monica and Kurt Garner, and Marie Medosi is the barn manager. And it's a small place, but it's very functional. So we have the small dressage court, and then on the bottom we have a bigger ring where we can, do a little cross training, maybe do a little 2-point in between, so we don't always do the ring work. We have a round pen, and the best part, or my favorite part, is for California, we have grass pastures all year round.
Oh, that's
because
super.
we water, and people know that California can be a little bit where we have water issues, and then we don't have grass. But I think that's one of my most important aspects for me, having horses and training horses, that they get their turnouts on grass and don't just stand in the sand. I mean, I know not everybody has that luxury, so I understand that, but it's very close to my heart. And
to be able to offer them.
Yes, and we have a good size of turnouts. They're not just little bitty pens, so that's nice. And we have a treadmill, and we also have an aqua tread.
Oh, super.
Yeah, which is really, really nice for the horses. They really learn to walk through the body. Yeah.
Oh, that's super.
Yeah, and then we have a little bit trails, but then also I most of the time put the horses on my trailer. I take 3 at a time. I have a 3-horse trailer, and we go 10 minutes, and then we will be in the mountains. So they do some hill work too, which is really, really nice.
It's good for their hind ends.
Yes, exactly. And it's so nice it's really important.
Mind.
Yeah. And for the horses we say that, but I think for the riders too, it's like,
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun. Okay, let's go and see the stallions.
You're gonna get some. We got them all teddy bears.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, Jersey.
This is something to play with.
Yeah.
So we're here now at Jersey Stable. Sabine, you don't have him that long yet, as you said. Only a little, like I think 1.5 years or something.
Yeah, a little bit over a year, yeah.
And when Dan and Gina imported him, did they immediately already ask you, like, Sabine, you need to ride him?
Yeah,
Probably.
they asked me when they were still in Holland looking at him if I would have time and
Oh, that's fantastic.
try qualify him for Chicago. And he's so talented and such a like very, very sweet horse, a little bit of an introvert, and you have to get to know him. Like when you first, if he doesn't know you and you step in the stall, he's the opposite from gorgeous Latino. He'll come like
in your space.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this one is more shy, but also super, super, the work ethic is impeccable. Like,
so how does that work when you get a stallion like that? You first, because obviously he was already trained, so you couldn't put the buttons on yourself.
Yeah.
And also you need to have like some sort of connection with it. So do you do like a trial period or something? Or
I mean, definitely, yeah. I usually do 3 months, and definitely, you know, I wouldn't just keep him if I felt like I didn't have connection with him. But I could, and I also went up to Dan and Gina's to try him. So, and I could feel, I will have to say, when I sat on him, I immediately fell in love with him when I was up there. So that was definitely already a yes, and a very, you know, I'm obviously very grateful to have that opportunity to sit on such an amazing horse.
And that he was trained so well that you could immediately have a good feeling riding him.
100%, yes. Yeah, I think Kimberly is the rider's name that had him before. I mean, she did a really amazing job, and it speaks for her training and for the program he was in, and also for his character to be able to do that.
Just hop on and ride him.
Yeah.
That's pretty special,
yes,
I think.
I think so too.
So what are the plans with him? Like, what are his talents, and what is something you're still working on? Because hopefully next year you're going to ride him Grand Prix, right?
Am I?
Or not? Oh no, it's developing Grand Prix next year.
Well, you know, with sometimes I hope I can get it done, but again, I will not, you know, rush it. I mean, he's going to tell me how fast we will get there. I think he has a nice piaffe, really nice piaffe passage, so that I already have. And the Grand Prix test is a hard test. I mean, they have to do everything. And, you know, I can feel on him, if you ask me, besides that he's so talented and so great, every horse and rider combination has some issues or areas where, you know, it needs some extra work, and that would be the flying changes. And I think it makes sense also because I think flying changes are a very personal thing, and so I'm sure he's a little bit like, I have to find the buttons for that still. And the Grand Prix test is a hard test. I mean, they have to do everything. Yeah, and it is a difference. It's a big jump from small tour to Grand Prix. And as you know, not every small tour horse is going to be a Grand Prix. I mean, I know he will, but just saying in general, you know. And then often it's also interesting, the really good Grand Prix horses weren't always the best small tour horses, right? So because in the small tour you still can get a lot of points with the more ground covering gaits, and maybe can get away. You know, in the Grand Prix you have to show much more the ability to sit, and
And is that also why some horses will not be able to do that, because they can't really sit? Or
yeah, I think every horse will learn it, but then, you know, how competitive are you going to be? Exactly, so, you know, you have to always think about the sport, the aspect of the sport of dressage, or just loving dressage and riding. You know, not everybody has to compete or wants to compete, but you also have to place the horse correctly if you aspire, you know, a little bit the sport aspect, and not, you know, you have to find the horse where you also feel it's not a big deal for them, I think, you know. And it's, you know, we're the advocate for our horses, so it's also really important that we place them correctly and say, you know, which horse is good at what right?
Even if they're super work willing, if their conformation doesn't allow them to really be competitive, then it will be struggling for them. Although they want to do it, they are struggling, right? Or,
no, and that is just something you feel as a rider, and if you have experience, and you can make that decision as a team. Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic that he is able to do it whenever.
Yeah.
When he's ready.
Right?
Right, Jersey? Handsome boy.
Hey, Latino. Huh? How are you? Hi, how are you? And you? All right.
So this is gorgeous Latino.
Yes.
We're seeing him in real life now.
So he's definitely
a different type.
A different type, and he's not shy. He's confident. And if he was probably in nature, he would be the alpha. But he's also very people oriented and very sweet. Loves kids. I remember in Ermelo, he had one of the stalls in the permanent stabling, and he had his head out, and his owner's sister was in town with a bunch of kids. They just loved on him, and he was like a total ham, like playing with them and enjoying all the attention. Yeah.
Looks fantastic.
And he has such a beautiful face, I think. I mean, he's
very impressive.
Yes.
But and like impressive, like a big stud.
Yes. Yeah. And it's fun that he's also super brave. Like I said earlier, he's like my favorite trail horse.
Oh, yeah. Well, he'll ride on the front.
Yes.
He'll go out and take a look.
Yeah, and you can tell the difference already. Like he comes, if I don't stop him, he'll walk
out of his stall.
Where Jersey's a little bit more shy and yeah. So, and with him, I mean, his next step would be, small tour. So he has to step up to I1. But with him too, I mean, we just talked with Sandy Mancini, who owns him, after Chicago, what the steps are. And I said, it's a big step from Prix St. George to I1. They have to do full pirouettes, and also he's growing out now, except for the Grand Prix, but the young horse program. So, he has to, it's a little bit more forgiving in the young horse program, certain things, when the pirouettes are a little bit bigger still. So everything has to be more tighter. And in the I1 and Prix St. George, I think things come up quicker. And as I say, in Chicago, he did very well. I'm super proud of both horses. But I will say he still was a little bit struggling with the fact that things come up so quickly, and I have to listen to him, and I can't just, I would love to show him, right away, but I have to listen to him, and I also have to acknowledge he's done so much for us every year. I mean, it's amazing. And so maybe it's a year where we take it a little more easy. I don't know. We'll see. He's going to tell us.
Because Laplight's just over. When we broadcast the video, it will be a half a year later. So who knows, But
exactly. And we're always aiming and striving for each goal. But again, it might be a year where we'll take a little time. He'll tell us.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, thank you.